Hey Gustav. Hello everyone. How are you, Gustav? All well. Attending that sessions or not? Oh, how? ज्यादा बाहर घूम रहे थे क्या? Okay. So how many days have passed? Feeling any kind of, serious symptoms or not? Okay, okay, okay. चलो यार, take care, Gustav. अच्छा. Take care, yeah, take care. And let me know if there's something I could be of help. Okay, great. Hello everyone. Hello everyone. Hey Siddharth. Hey Ayush. Good evening, Anurag. So, how many of you are from September Analytics? Good evening, Utkarsh. Okay. Tanvi, you are from September Analytics. Weren't you in my batch only? Right. Forget the you are in November, yeah. Great, great. So let us wait for 2 to 3 more minutes and then we'll start. Okay. Until then, if you have anything to talk about, or let me introduce myself for the people who do not know me. I am Mohit Sharma, and I take classes for November Analytics. And today we'll be having a remedial session on dynamic arrays. Is my voice clear, guys? Great. So, how many of you know little bit about vectors? You have encountered vectors before. How many of you? Yes. Okay, let us put it this way. Okay, Siddharth says no. How many of you doesn't even know what a vector is? Okay, Siddharth. Anybody else who don't know or who haven't written? Yeah, Kaustav, I know about you. You were in that class. So, anybody who hasn't written a vector until today? Yes. Right, Siddharth. Right. Okay. Okay, Shweta and Siddharth. Fine. Okay, so let me just put the agenda for today's class. We'll be going through how to write the 1D vector, 2D vectors, and we'll be solving one or two problems around it so that you can become used to of how to become used to the syntax of vectors, right? How to write those, how to insert elements, how to access elements. What's the need of vectors? All this particular stuff. Great. So 11 people have joined. Can one of you just go on the scalar chat and let me only pick here. Let me just ping on the scalar chat if somebody is coming. We'll just wait for 2 more minutes and then we'll start. Until then, anything interesting you guys have? Anybody who has exams currently? I'll be surprised if nobody is giving exams right now. Finally, yeah, finally there is somebody who is giving exams. Due to COVID, it has become very irregular. Usually most of the people have exams at the same time. But currently, some colleges are taking in January, some are in February, some in March. And how many of you have started going back to college? Anybody who is back to college? Gaurav is back in the college. So how are you feeling, Gaurav, after 1 year? You're back in college. Good, you are feeling good. Great, yeah. Okay. No, Laksida, don't worry, yaar. Colleges are going to start. Where your college lies? In which state? UP. Then it should start. It should start. Okay, Gaurav's. Bits Pilani should start, yeah. Why haven't they started? There are no next semester, okay. But they should start, yeah. There are not that much cases in which SRM is giving an option. Most of the colleges are giving an option. Are the particular degree, the engineering degree is such a way that you can give options, but the options are not, feasible for the mechanical ones or for the ones who have some kind of lab sessions going on. For computer science one, it's quite possible to have a online semester. But yeah, college fields are college fields. You cannot miss the college fields. Anyways, so let us start. Oh, that's a hybrid branch, right, Anurag? Combination of electronics and computer. Hmm. Are you in Thapar? Because Thapar provides that. Okay, okay. But I have heard of Thapar that Thapar provides electronics and computer. Anyways, let us just start. So before starting, we only know that we have 1D arrays and 2D arrays, right? So what's the need of dynamic arrays? Can anybody tell me what's the need of dynamic arrays? Thinking of it, what's the actual need? Why we even need dynamic arrays? When we already have arrays. Any kind of suggestion you guys have? Why we need dynamic arrays? Yes, large space. Somebody is saying large space. Okay. Any more suggestions? So it can resize itself during the program. Okay. Resize itself. I used to think about a case when you actually need resizing. Why you need resizing? Huh, okay, because arrays are fixed size, okay. Why do you actually need resizing? Can you think of any case where you might think that, okay, in this particular case, I might be needing the resizing of array? Or the fixed size won't work for me in this particular case. Any case you think of? Anything you think of? Any suggestions? Or any problem you have faced or any problem you solved until now, which you think the variant of that problem should be solved with, vectors or with dynamic arrays? No? Okay. So let us say there is a problem that user is giving the input. User is giving the input of integers. User is giving the input of integers. Integers are coming and you are taking the integers one by one. Let's say user entered 2, 4, 1, 7, 6, and user is continuously inputting it and you are taking the input, right? Again and again. It's kind of you do not stop taking the input. How do you do that thing? How do you just keep on taking the input from the user? Tell me this first. How do you keep on taking the input from the user? Infinite times, let's say. User haven't told us beforehand that how much input the user is going to provide, how much number of integers the user is going to provide, but it is going to continuously supply you the integers. How can you do that stuff? Anybody, any suggestions? No, Anurag, we do not know anything like append yet. I just want to take infinite integers. I just want to take the input. That's it. I do not want to store them. I do not want to do anything. I just want to take infinite integers. How do I do that? Take an integer, print it back. Take an integer, print it back. Anything you have learned until now, which you can use to take infinite integers? No, I do not. Samit, understand, right, Anurag? Samit, understand. I do not want to store those integers. I just want to take the input, that's it, and print it. I do not want to store those. Focus on how to take infinite numbers of input. How can you take infinite numbers of input? You do not have to stop. You just need to take on input again and again. Right, Shweta? Shweta says infinite loop. Shweta says infinite loop. So let us quickly write the infinite loop. So can I say this is infinite loop? While true, take an input, print the same element. Yes. Can I say this loop will work again and again continuously? Anybody has any doubt in this particular thing? No? Now what I am saying is you need to calculate the average of the numbers. You need to calculate the average of the numbers, right? But again you will say that I cannot calculate the average of the numbers until I do not know the exact numbers. If the input is coming again and again, how can I calculate the average of the numbers, right? So now the person says, okay, there is a situation. I'll be giving you positive numbers only. I'll be giving you positive numbers only. As soon as you encounter zero or any negative number, as soon as you encounter zero or any negative number, just stop taking input there. Okay, do you understand the constraint? When we are going to stop taking the input, the user is going to pass the input again and again until only if he passes zero, just stop taking the input, or if he passes less than zero. Okay, and find the average for the remaining numbers. And find the average for the remaining numbers. Can you do this, guys? Can you do this problem? What will change? What will change in this particular thing? Tell me, what will change in this particular while loop? Right, Anurag, right? Right, Christy. Right, Siddharth. Yeah, most of you have reached to the solution that what we can do, sir, we do not want to run the loop infinite times. So we do not want our condition to always be true, right? So there is a particular condition. What is the condition? That my input, whatever the input I am taking, it should not be equal to zero and it should not be less than zero. Okay, so my condition becomes x should be always greater than zero. Right? Yes, guys. So now why I introduced this particular problem? Because I wanted to introduce to right cost effect. So cost of what I am saying is user is continuously, continuously giving you input. User is continuously giving you input. Now user has given you condition that as soon as I pass zero or as soon as I pass a number which is less than 0, you just stop taking the input. Okay, Kaustav, you understood until now? Yes. So now the thing is, this loop was actually working infinite times. It was continuously running again and again. Why? Which thing was making it to run again and again? This true was actually making it to run again and again. Because the condition is always true, right? The condition is always true. That loop will continuously run again and again. But now I want, okay, I am taking an input, I am taking an input. Let's say we have x, we have the value of x. I want, as soon as the value of x become less than 0, I do not want to take another input. Okay. As soon as the value of x become less than 0 or equals to 0, I do not want to actually take another input. So my condition will become x greater than 0. That until and unless x is greater than 0, just keep on taking the input, right? Understood, Kaustav? Yeah. Anybody has any doubt in this particular issue? What was the issue and how did we solve it? Now the thing is, do we know before how many elements are going to come? Did we have an idea that how many elements in total are going to come? How many elements in total we are going to take input of? Anybody who says yes, sir, we had an idea. But Sambit, using even count plus plus, if you do count plus plus, you are calculating side by side. You did not know the count before starting the while loop. Isn't it, Sambit? You did not know the count before starting the loop. We usually have this int n and we take input from the user, the number of integers. We didn't do this. We just let user to give input again and again. Isn't it, Sambit? क्या हमें लूप स्टार्ट करने से पहले संबित ये पता था कि हाउ मेनी इंटीजर्स आर एक्चुअली गोइंग टू कम? यस? No, na. So that is why if we want to store these numbers, can I define an array or can I declare an array? If I want to store these integers, do I have every information to declare an array? What I am missing? Yes, guys, what I am missing? Tell me. Which information is missing to declare an array? Which information is currently missing to declare an array? I want to store all these particular integers. I want to store all these particular integers, right? Right, Anurag? Right, Christy? But I do not know, Shweta, it's the size of integers or the number of integers, right, Siddharth? To declare an array, I need int and I need x and now I need size. This is the name of the array and here I need to write the size of the array. Because the size of array is always fixed. If you have understood the array in previous classes, you should know that size of array is always fixed, right? But we did not know the size. We just let the user to keep on inputting the value again and again. So can we use arrays? Any suggestion from your side that if you can improvise the arrays and still able to store it? Any suggestions? We do not have the size beforehand. We do not have the size beforehand. Okay, other than vectors, you just need to improvise the array only. If let's say vectors doesn't exist or let's say, by assuming some things, you can change the array only. By assuming some things. We are going to come on vectors, Christy, don't worry. That's the eventual finishing point. So what we can assume, okay, let us assume that user will only enter 10 raised to the 6 values. We are assuming a hypothetical upper bound, right? We can assume a hypothetical upper bound. That okay, user will enter only 10 raised to the 6 value, or the user will not enter more than that. So what we can take? We can take the size as 10 raised to power 6. But now the thing is, what happens if user only enters two values? Wastage of resource, wastage of resource, right? And what happens if user enters 10 raised to power 6 plus 3 values? Shortage of resource, shortage of resource, right? So we want something which should be dynamic in nature. We should not give a size beforehand. We just enter the values in how many numbers we want. We want such a thing. So is the need of dynamic arrays clear to everyone? Anybody who thinks, no sir, I do not understand what the actual need of dynamic arrays is. Any single person who doesn't understand the need of dynamic arrays. It's very important. You should always ask a question whenever somebody is telling you now, what's the need of this year? What's the need of white color of airplanes? Most of the airplanes are white colored. Why? So what's the need? What's the need of vectors? So you should always focus on the need and then proceed further. So need of dynamic arrays. By the way, any of you know why most of the airplanes are white colored? Before we move further, any guesses? Like there can be a lot of, the most important reason is that only. Any guesses, guys? Ayush knows. Kind of. Light color absorbs, a very little amount of heat and it reflects most of the heat. So that's one reason of every plane to be white colored, right? How many of you didn't know this, or how many of you didn't think of this before? Great. Okay. So since now we are clear with the need of dynamic arrays, we are clear with the need of dynamic arrays, right? So how C++ provides us? What C++ provides us to manage these dynamic arrays? So C++ provides us with vectors. C++ provides us with vectors. It's kind of, you can say, not exactly, but you can say derived data type. It's a derived data type. Okay, and we are not going to learn how vectors are implemented at, in the back end. We are not going to learn that. But just to amuse you, vectors are only arrays only at the back end. Think of how you can implement arrays and form dynamic arrays. So just to let you know, vectors are just arrays at backend. We are not going to discuss how we actually implement those things, but vectors are just arrays at backend and some more functionalities provided with it. Okay. So the very first question we do at every point when we did functions or when we did, arrays, the very first thing was how to declare these things, how to start with these things, right, guys? So the very first thing is how to declare vectors. How to declare vectors. So the way of declaring vector is writing vector. We first write vector, then we have this angular brackets, then we have something magical here, and then we give the name of the vector, name of vector, and then a terminator. This is the declaration of a vector. This is declaration of vector. So can you guys guess what's the magical thing which we fill inside this yellow part? Yes, Siddharth, can you guess what's the magical thing inside this yellow part? Right, Anurag? Try to find out what is missing from arrays. Try to find out what is missing from arrays. While we gave the declaration of arrays, what is missing from the declaration of arrays? Right. So what is missing? Data type is missing. What is missing? Data types is missing. No, Ayush. Ayush is saying that a size is missing, right? Yeah, I'm actually with you. That size is missing, right? But we are actually declaring dynamic arrays, so we don't care about size, right, Ayush? Do we care about size? No. So we don't care about size. So let me just first write the declaration of arrays. We do int name of array and the size. Okay. We do not care about size. We do not care about size. We have name. Yes, we have a name. Okay. Do we have int? Do our declaration tells what type of integer, what type of, what it actually stores? No, until now we didn't, but now we can. Rather in the place of data type we can write int. In the place of data type we can write int. So it becomes vector int, and let's say the name is x. Let's say, okay. So x is a vector. X is a vector which can store integers. It's a very important statement. X is a vector. X is a vector which can store integers. X is a vector which can store integers. So now the next thing is, what's the next thing? What's the next thing you care of? Or what's the next thing you need to know? हमने declaration कर दिया, we did the declaration, but what do you think, what's the next thing you need to know? Right, Siddharth? What is missing? Yes, guys, what is missing? Okay, right, Anurag, kind of. More people. Guys, this class is going to be more interactive because this is a remedial class. So I want every one of you to understand the things, right? So keep on responding, please. So currently what is missing is, since we do not have size, but we always have data, right? Shweta, again, we do not care about size. We do not care about size because these are dynamic arrays. We don't care about size, let it be, right? So what we care about? We care about our data. What's the data? How to enter the values inside this particular vector. In the case of arrays, what do we used to do? Int x10, and then we used to do x of 0 is 5, x of 1 is 2. You remember? So how do we enter data inside the vector now? So there is this method, or there is this function called push underscore back. Push underscore back, and then you use these brackets. Then you use these brackets. Just a function. It's a function only. So pushback is a function, and then you need to send a parameter. Then you need to send the actual data you want to enter into your vector. So what do you want to enter into your vector? Let's say you want to enter 10. Okay. You want to insert 10 into your vector. You want to insert 10 into your array kind of thing, right? And before it you write dot. Before it you write dot. And before this you write the name of the vector which you are using. So we are using here x. So we write x dot pushback, and this is the value. This is the value. So until now, my vector was nothing. It's like a dot or it's like a zero. It was nothing. It just has x as a name, and it just only knew that it will store integers. It only knew two things, that it is nothing until now and it can store integers. Now what we did x dot pushback 10. I'll come back to you, Avirup. X dot pushback 10. Right? So what it will do, it will start and then allocate the first memory location. It will allocate the first memory location, and it will enter 10 inside it. Yes, everybody clear with this? Now I want to insert 5 into it. Tell me, how do I insert 5 into it? Insert 5 into this particular vector. Yeah. So we write x dot push back 5. Okay. Now there is a question for you. Where will the 5 will go? Where will the 5 will go? 5 will go after 10 or 5 will go 5 will come here. What's the suitable place or according to the name of the function, what do you think? Okay. Yeah. So the function is saying push back. Push back means push at the end, push at the last. So 10 is currently the last. So 5 will be pushed after this. Okay. Now let's say I write x dot push back, x dot push back 2. So where will 2 will come? Before 10 or after 5? Right. So it will come after 5. So isn't it a kind of array only? But it is dynamic in nature. Why dynamic in nature? Because we are not providing the size. So it 3 memory allocations are allocated and it has formed 10, 5 and 2. Isn't it isn't it a array only now? Array of 3 integers? Yes. So Aviroop have just joined, so he is asking what he missed. So Aviroop, at the starting we discussed what is the need of dynamic arrays. Okay, and after discussing the need of dynamic arrays, we started how to write the vectors. We started discussing that okay, dynamic arrays are vectors only in C++. C++ provide dynamic arrays in the form of vectors. Then we discussed how to declare the vector. So to declare the vector, we write vector and angular brackets, and inside it the data type and the name of the vector. So Aviroop, do you know the vectors before? Have you written the vectors before? Use the vectors before? Okay, so you are a bit knowledgeable to it, right? So great. So vector, you know how to declare it, right? So we write vector, then we have two angular brackets, and inside those angular brackets we specify what's the data type for that particular vector. Which type of data this vector will store in its memory location. In a single memory location, will it store integer? Will it store float variable or many other data types? It can store anything. Will it store football? Right, 1D dynamic array. Will it store football? Will it store, shuttlecocks? Anything. We just need to specify it here, what it will store. Okay, and this is the name of vector. Then this is the name of vector. We do not specify the size. Reason being, we are considering dynamic arrays. If we give the size, we can give the size also. If we already know the size and we always want to use vectors, we can give the size. I'll let you know after this. But preferable thing is, or like the most important use of vector is that we do not need to specify the size. We can, but we don't need to. Okay guys, so in the starting I just declared and then I pushed 3 elements inside the vector. I inserted 3 elements inside the vector. The first element was 10, second was 5 and third was 2. And this is the response or this is the structure inside the memory. 10, 5 and 2. Everything clear until now. Anybody has any doubt, just ask me. Just let me know if there's any kind of doubt. You are going to use vectors a lot, so there should not be any kind of doubt in vectors. No? Great. So now let me know, what do you think if I want to access this particular value? How can I access? Can you think of something? If I want to retrieve this 5, how can I retrieve this 5? Anybody, any thoughts? Any guesses? Yeah, do guesses. What would have you done if you were the C++ creator? तुम कैसे अलाउ करते हो लोगों को कि तुम ऐसे एक्सेस कर लो यार? Right. I just need to access somewhere this 5. Forget about loops. That's another method, Aviroop. Great. So there are two things which are coming up. Aviroop has a very valid suggestion. Aviroop is saying, so since we are pushing back, it's quite possible we cannot access 5 directly. हो सकता है, it's quite possible. So Aviroop is saying, sir, पहले इस 2 को हटाओ, just remove this 2 first, and then just we reach to 5. That thing quite make the sense, right? But as I said, vectors are just implemented like arrays. At the back end, vectors are just implemented like arrays. Okay, so we do not need to do this thing. We do not need to remove. What we can do, in the similar way the array stores, it stores it by index wise, 0, 1, and 2. So 10 has an index of 0, 5 has an index of 1, 2 has an index of 2. After inserting the values, just assume it as a vector only. It is exactly not a vector, but just assume it as a vector only. So in a vector, tell me how do we access this particular value or this particular value? If x would have been a vector, x would have been an array, how would you access? Want to access it like this? X of 1 or x of 0 or x of 2? Yes? Anybody has any doubt on this particular thing? No? So accessing of element doesn't change in vectors also. You can directly access any memory location if it is there. If it is there. Tell me what would happen if I try to do this. If you are accustomed of this, if you know this, tell me what would happen if I try to access this or try to write x of 4. Yeah, it is out of bounds, right? And the code editor will show you something like this. Segmentation font. It will show you something like this. Siddharth, it's quite, it's dependent upon the code editor and the compiler you are using. It might give you garbage value. But most of the times it will give you segmentation font. This is the default behavior. This is the required behavior. It should give segmentation font. Okay. So if your code is giving you segmentation font, so try to search in your code ki kahan pe you have accessed something which is not present at all. You have accessed a memory location which is not present at all. Right? So this way you can debug the segmentation font. So now how to access, how to declare, how to insert, are these three things clear? How to insert, how to declare, how to insert, and how to access. Are these things clear in the very basic vector? How to do these three particular things? Anybody has any kind of doubt on this? Any single person? No? Let me just show you how we actually do this stuff, or let me just quickly show you how we run it in IDE so that you'll get to know what we are actually doing. Is the screen visible to you? The REPL screen? Yes, great. So let us first declare it. Vector int x. Now what has happened? We have formed a vector x which will store integers. So now why this red line is coming? The reason is, to use vectors, you need to include a library first. To use vectors, you have to include a library first. Hash include vector is your library, which you need to include. Okay? Is this thing clear? So don't forget this library to use vectors. So now we have declared a vector. Now we are going to push some things into it. Let us say we just take the input from the user only. Okay. So let's say user says, I am assuming that we know the size. Users give you a size. Okay. User is giving that I will be inputting n elements. So how can you insert n elements into a vector now? What do you need to do to insert n elements into a vector? Okay, Anurag. Do I need to write x.pushback again and again? N times? Should I write x.pushback n times? Yes. Should I copy paste it? N times? Only Anurag knows this stuff. Nobody else. So what should I do? If you do not want me to write it n times, what should I do? Right, exactly. So what we can do, we can run a loop for int I equals to 0 and n plus 1. And then we should take an input from the user, right? We should take an input from the user. So let's say int temp, int temp. Okay, and then what we should do? We should push this particular value into the x vector. So x dot push back, x dot push back. Is this particular thing clear to everyone? Anybody has any doubt on this? Now quickly tell me, how will I print all the values again? How can I print all the values? And you should not do inside this particular thing. You should write something else. How can I print all the values? Can I print all the values in the similar way I inputted them? Yes? Right. We should again write a loop. We should again write a loop. And then we should do cout. And cout what? Cout what? Right, Anurag? Yes, more people. Right, Siddharth. Right, Avirup. Right, Sambit. Costa, where are you? Right, Christy. No, Ayush. So give reply, yeah. So x of I. X of I. The way we the way we accessed in the arrays, in the similar way we access it here. In the similar way, no change. To access a particular element, just go to that index and access it. So x of I. And we can just say this. Let us quickly run this. So let us first give n is 5. Then we give 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And it prints 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is it clear? Is it clear? Everyone? Anybody has any doubt in this thing? Yeah, Kaustav. Kaustav, so what we did, we first declare the vector. Okay, declaration is clear to Kaustav? We first declare the vector. Then we took the size, or then we took how many number of integers user is going to enter. Okay. Then we ran a loop because we do not want to write x dot pushback again and again for n times. N can be 1000, right? So we do not want to write it again and again. So when we do not want to write it, dry principle, if you remember, do not repeat yourself. We should use a loop, right? So when I'm using a loop, I just took a temp first, just to store the value user is giving into a temp, and then just push it inside a vector. I cannot just directly take the input and push it inside the vector. I have to store it somewhere and then push it inside the vector. So I took the input inside temp and then pushed temp inside the x vector. And then pushed the data, inserted the data inside the x, and then I want to print all the data present in x. So what I did, I again ran a loop from 0 to n minus 1 actually, and then I did x of I to access the element. It will access the element present at ith index. Okay, is it clear, Kaustav? Great. Now, if there is sometimes you might need the size also, like after inserting into array, or somebody has given an array. Okay, somebody has given you a vector. Somebody has already given you a vector, but you do not know the size. You do not know the size. So how can you calculate the size? You can calculate. Let's store it into a size variable or size1 variable, and you can do x, the vector itself, dot size. X, the vector, the name of the vector, then a dot, and then this function size. This will give you the size. Let us print size 1. So let's say 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And see, the size 5 is printed. Yes? Is this particular thing clear to everyone? Cool? Any doubt? Great. Now there is a problem. Now there is a problem. You are given with, let's say you are given with some integers. You are given with some integers. And you just need to remove every odd number. Remove every odd number, or you can say just store even numbers. Just store even numbers. Okay, you are given with some integers. You are given with an integer array, let's say. You are given with an integer array, let's say. And then you have to remove every odd number, or you have to give me a vector which will contain every even number, or you have to give me an array which will contain every even number, no odd numbers. Okay, so let me give an example. Let's say you are given with an array A and it has value, let's say 1, 5, 7, 8, and 4. Okay, these are the values given. Now you should give me another array. You should give me another array as an output. And what you should do, let's say array name is ARR. And what it should contain, it should only contain 8, 4. Let's place 8 here and 7 here, just so that you will not be confused. Yeah. Have you understood the problem? Have you all understood the problem? Yes. So let us say vectors doesn't exist. Let us say vectors doesn't exist and forget vectors. This array is given, and you just need to give me this array. How will you do this thing? Forget vectors, forget everything we learned until now in today's class only. Just let me know how will you do this particular problem. Give me suggestions. Siddharth, do we have remove function? The remove you write. How do we use that remove? How do we do that remove? That's the important thing. That's what you need to think. You need to solve it with arrays. What do you do with arrays? Will you remove it? Will you take another array? Let me give you a hint. You will take another array. Then you need to know the size of that array. Think about it. Take 2 minutes, guys. I want all of you to think about it. How will you solve this particular problem? I will be giving you A. I will be giving you A. And you should give me this particular array in the return value, or you should just give me this. How can you do this? You only have arrays. You have only arrays. You cannot use vectors. You cannot use vectors. Anybody who wants to discuss his or her idea? Anybody who wants to discuss? Aviroop, you cannot use vectors. Aviroop, you cannot use vectors. But then Shweta, your eye will cause problem, isn't it? Let's say a of I, the index is 2. Then you will be storing the value at 2 only. What will be, right? Okay. You cannot use vectors. You cannot use vectors. So, nobody. So let us start. So what we can do? Kind of cost stuff. We don't need to swap. Okay, you can swap also. Let us start. So we are first given with an array A. Okay, let us assume that we are given with A. Let us assume we are given with an A, or let us take the input only. Int array, let us say we are given with a 7 size. Okay, and let us say the array is 1, 5, 2, 7, 6, 8, and let's say 3. Okay, so the output should be 1, 5, oh sorry, output should be 2, 6 and 8, right? So you're given with this A. Now what do you want to do? You want to remove all the odds. You want to remove all the odds. Do we need any method? Do we know any method by which I can delete a particular element from an array? Or I can remove that particular element from an array? Do we know anything until now like that? Do array supports this deletion? What do you think? As much knowledge you have, what do you think? Does array support this operation of deleting something from the array? Yeah, guess not. So no, array doesn't support this particular thing. No, array doesn't support. Array will not support. But what you can take another array, and you can store even numbers into that array. Isn't it? We will not change the existing array. We'll just take another array and put the even numbers inside it. Yes, can we do that? What's one problem there? What's one problem there? A problem is there, right? Do we know this particular size? Do we know this particular size? How many even numbers are there in the existing array? Do we know this thing beforehand? Do we know until now that how many even numbers are there? No, we do not know. So first of all, we need to calculate the even numbers, isn't it? First of all, we need to calculate this number of even numbers. Yes, so we cannot just declare this thing. First of all, we need to calculate the number of even numbers. Right, so we'll write a loop. We'll run the loop on this array 7. Okay, and then we'll do if my a of I %2 double equals to 0 count plus plus. Anybody has any doubt in this logic? I am assuming that you would be knowing this, how to calculate the number of even numbers. Yes, right? So now I can declare the array. Now I can declare the secondary array. Right? So what we can do, int array count. Yes, and what we can do, run till count. What should we do here? Should we go till count? Yes, should we go till count? How many of you say, sir, yes, we should go only till count? Anurag says no. Anybody? It can be right, it can be wrong. Yeah, Anurag. No. Because we again want to traverse the whole existing array. We do not know at which particular position my even number lies, right? So we again have to go and search in whole array. Is this particular thing clear? Why we need to again traverse the whole array? Because we do not know the exact location of even numbers. So we again have to go. We only know the size of even numbers. We do not know the number where the even numbers are located in the array A. Anybody has any doubt in this? No? Great. So we need to go till 7 I plus plus, and then we need to check if a of I again, if a of I percentage double equals to 0, array of I equals to a of I. Is this thing right? Okay, Shweta, let me repeat. So just forget this thing. So what I am saying, Shweta, that until now I only have an array ARR, okay, which will store my even numbers. I have an array ARR which will store my even numbers, right? And I know the count of even numbers. Do I know the exact location of even numbers? Yes, no. So what do we need to do? We need to again traverse this whole array, isn't it? To get the even numbers, we again have to traverse the whole array. So my loop should go from 0 to count or 0 to 7. 0 to the size of this array or count of even numbers. What should you think? What do you think? Right? It should go from 0 to 7. And what we will do? Then we will check with every A of I. Then we will check with every A of I. We will go and ask A of I, हाँ भाई तू even है या odd है? What are you? Are you even or odd? So it will say, okay, I am an even number. So okay, if you are in an even number, come to my house. Come to the party. Let's party, guys. Isn't it? So come to the party. Come to ARR of I. Right? Now tell me, is there any problem inside it? Can you guys see and tell me if there's a problem in this particular loop? Error will, okay, right Anurag, right. Guys, see this code, this problem, this thing you tend to do many times when you are starting with coding. Tell me, can you think of a problem which is occurring here? No, equal to is right. We want even numbers, so even numbers have remainder 0 when we divide it by 2, so it is double equals to. Right, Siddharth? Right. The problem is here. Now can you think of the problem? The problem is in this particular statement. Tell me what is the index of 8. Tell me what is the index of 8. Right, Aviru. Tell me what is the index of 8. 5. So index of 8 is 5. So what we are doing, array of 5 equals to A of 5. What was the count of even numbers here? Only 3. What was the count of even numbers here? Only 3. Can I access array of 5? Size क्या था array का? Count. Count की value क्या है? What's the value of count? What's the value of count? Count is 3. Count is even numbers. So can I access this position? नहीं ना. Does everybody understand this thing? What's the problem here? Right? Great. So we do not need to actually put my value at ith index. We do not need to put my value at ith index. We need to have a different variable to check the index of array. Okay? To continuously increase the index of array. So what we can take, we take another variable int j is equals to 0. It will maintain the index of array on which we are currently. कि हम second और 0 और 1 को insert कर चुके हैं, अब हमें second पे insert करना है. We need to insert it second, right? So now we'll do j, and every time we add the value at j, we will increment it. Is it clear? Anybody has any doubt in this? No, I'm assuming no. Okay, fine, great. So now this is the way we do it with arrays. First of all, we need to calculate the size and then we need to run this loop. Can you now see the need of vectors here? Will my life become simpler if I use vector? Yes. Will my life become simpler if I use vector here? Everybody with me? We do not need to calculate the size now. We do not need to calculate the size. So we can directly use the vector. So what we can do, let me just comment it out. And now we do not need to calculate the size. So what we can do, we can declare a vector int, let's say even number. So let's say just even. We can declare a vector even. And now what we can do, we can just traverse this whole array. So for int I equals to 0, I is less than 7, I plus plus. We just need to do this thing now. We do not need to calculate the length. We just need to do this thing. If my a of I percentage 2 double equals to 0, what we can say, just push it inside my vector. Even dot push back A of I. Yes. Does this problem clears you two things? The need of dynamic arrays, how to declare, how to insert, and how to not access. We are not accessing anything from the vector here. Yes, everybody with me. And these things are called 1D vector. These things are called 1D vector. Got it? Are we on the same page? No problem at all until now. Because the next thing I'm going to discuss is maybe you feel a bit tricky about it. We are going to move on 2D arrays. Take your time, take 1 minute, think about it, everything. If you have any kind of doubt, tell me, otherwise we are going to move. Now, can you write vectors, declare vectors and insert vectors? Great. Now, iPad is visible now? Now let us start new thing. Now let us think. Until now what we are doing, you need to practice. Screen is post. You cannot see the iPad? Okay. Yeah. Great. Now we have learned. Until now, can you see we were forming a vector. We were forming a vector. And at every location, we were storing integers. Right? Can I say this was a kind of 1D array? This is a kind of 1D array. Now what is 2D array? Now what is 2D array? First of all, we'll just quickly repeat what is 2D array and then we'll move to vectors. Can I say 2D array is array of arrays? Array of arrays. So until now what was happening, at every memory location of the array, we were storing integer. We were storing an integer. Now what we are taking? We are taking an array. This is an array, right? Let's say this is an array ARR. This is an array ARR. How do you access this particular location? How do you access this particular location? Yes, guys. How do you access? Right, Anurag. You access this particular location ARR0. But until now you do not know what is stored here. What is stored here? Now in the case of 2D arrays, an array is stored here. Previously, an integer was stored at that particular location. Now, an array is stored at this particular location. This thing is not an integer now. This thing is an array again. Is this particular thing clear to everyone? That is why this was called array of integers. And that is why this thing is called array of arrays. Anybody has any doubt? If you understand this thing, things will become simpler. Right? So with array of zero is array itself, is another array. Okay? Is another array. So let us take a black box. Let us assume it to be a black box. Okay? This is an array. How do we access, let's say, second index of this array? How do we access, let us say this is a black box. How do we access the second index of this array? By doing just this thing? Yes. This is an array. I know this is an array. How do I access the second index of this array? 0, 1, 2. By doing this thing. Let me just replace my black box with the actual value. What was my black box? My black box was array of 0 and 2. Go to the very first memory location of array, which will again be an array, and inside that array, go to the second location. So it actually means go to 0th row and second column. Can I say this particular thing will give me the 0th row, this particular thing will give me row, and this particular thing will specify me the column? Can I say this thing? Yes. Anybody has any doubt until now? What we did, we went to the 0th position. We went to the 0th position, then we find out, okay, it is not an integer, it is again an array. And I want to access the second element of it. So this is a black box, second element of it. So array of 0, which is itself an array, the second value of it. No doubt in this thing. Absolutely correct. Absolutely right. Clear. Great. Now what we need to do, it's quite possible that we also want dynamic arrays, dynamic 2D arrays. We also need dynamic 2D arrays. Right? We can need dynamic 2D arrays. Previously we were storing 10 students. We are storing the data of students, okay? We are storing this data of students. We were storing name and let's say roll number only previously. And we were storing the data of 10 students. So the table will be like this. Let's say name and let's say roll number, right? And 10 students. Now I want to add another new student. But if my array size is fixed, I cannot add another student, right? If my array size is fixed, I cannot add. So I need something dynamic in the case of rows also. कि मेरी row dynamic बन जाए. I want my rows to be row number to be dynamic, isn't it? I want my row number to be. I should be able to add another new row inside it. So my row should be dynamic. Should my column be dynamic? It's quite possible. After some time, I want to add some phone numbers, let's say. Until now, I was only adding name and roll number. It's quite possible. After some time, I want to add some phone numbers. So my column should be dynamic, my row should be dynamic. So do I understand why and how we actually need the dynamic 2D arrays? Need is important, right? Now, array size need to be fixed. While declaring 2D arrays, we need to give the rows and we need to give the columns, right? So how do we implement dynamic arrays? We use vectors. Now comes the important thing. Okay, we use vector because that's the only thing C++ provides us now for dynamicity. We need dynamic arrays. So we got vector. We got two angular brackets and let the name of the vector is, let's say, v. Now tell me if you understand this thing. Previously it was vector of integers. Okay, previously it was vector of integers. Now think carefully and tell me what would come here. Is it still vector of integers? Right, Anurag. Right, Siddharth. I want answer from 16 people presented. At least 10. I'm considering 6 are asleep. At least 5. Only 2 people have given me the answer, yaar. Right, Christy? Come on, yaar. September LITEX is leading. November LITEX. Shweta, why? Can you justify, right, Samit, right, Christy? Can you justify your answer? Why string? What was the reason behind thinking that, okay, I need this string here? I need something analogous to this. There is an integer array which has 2 rows and 3 columns. Okay, I need something analogous to this and it's 2 integers. Okay, now tell me, I got it, why you thought of it. Okay, so I got multiple answers. So the one answer is int comma int. One answer is int comma int. So what it signifies? What it signifies? We have a vector v. We have a vector v which stored 2 integers. This thing is not correct. This thing is not syntactically correct. But let us try to find out some meaning out of it. Okay. So what this thing says, V is a vector, V is a vector which contains 2 integers at every location, which contain 2 integers at every location. So it will be like something like this. We have a vector and at every memory location, हमारे पास 2 integers होंगे. We'll be having 2 integers. Did we want this? Did we want this? But how many integers we wanted? 3. Shweta, kind of, yeah. Right? So what we want, just like array of arrays, what we need, there was an array and at every location we need an array itself. एक array चाहिए मुझे, एक column चाहिए, एक पूरी row चाहिए actually. Isn't it? So can I say I have a vector and inside every location of vector, I need another vector so that my column can also be dynamic and my row can also be dynamic. My row already became dynamic as soon as I declared it a vector. ये जो vector है ये outside row ही तो है, ये rows ही तो define कर रहा है. These are different rows, isn't it, guys? And inside it I am declaring another vector. I want another vector, so I can increase this also and I can increase this also. Anybody who doesn't understand this thing, please let me know. I'll try to repeat it in more simpler way. Yes, anybody who doesn't understand this thing, let me know. No, then I am assuming that everybody understood. Okay, fine. So these are rows, and inside every row there are 4 columns. We can assume it. Okay, so there is this vector. So how do we actually declare this dynamic 2D vectors? So we need to write vector, and inside every location of vector, we again need a vector. What we need, we do not need an integer. We again need a vector. Okay, vector. Now inside those vectors, what do we need? What do we need to fill? Integers? Yes, what do we need to fill? Integers. So inside this, we want to fill integers. Is this declaration clear to everyone? Yes, great. Now tell me, okay, now things are getting more, tricky. So let us say we have this 2D array and there is some data inside it, let's say. Assume some data inside it. Okay, we want to reach to this particular thing, this particular state of the vectors. Okay, tell me in the starting, what is the state of this V? What does it hold? Does it hold anything or it doesn't hold anything? Does it hold anything? No. Currently it's nothing. It's just a dot or anything. It's just having something in memory location. Okay, यहाँ से हम start करेंगे, that's it. Right? Now what should we do first? We should allocate some memory. Yes, we should allocate some memory. How can we allocate some memory? In the case of vector of integers, what we were doing? V dot pushback 5. V dot push back 5. But does V contain integers now? Right, Anurag, right. Does V contain an integer now? No. V contains a vector at every location. V contains a vector at every location, a complete row. To build this particular thing, we should first get this row. Yes, this whole thing is V. This whole thing is V. This is one location of V, this is one location of V, and this is one complete location of V. And every location, and inside every location, there is this again a vector. There is this vector again. Yes, guys? Anurag has reached to the solution that what should we need to do? What do we need to do? What do we need to insert first? In the previous case, we were pushing back an integer. What should we do to build this particular thing here? Right, Siddharth, right? If you didn't know vectors before and if you are able to think this, great, Siddharth. Tell me, guys. Previously, we were pushing back an integer. What should we do now to build this thing? We need to focus and build this thing. Forget the loop for now. I just want how will you start? This is empty thing. This is empty thing. How will you start building this particular thing? What do you think? Can I straight away enter this one? Can I straight away just insert this one into V? Can I write this thing? Yes. How many of you say we can write this thing? Ha, Christy, right. Sambit, forget about loops, yaar. Forget about loops. Just focus on what we need to do. Straight away, do not jump to loops. We need one here, right? We need one here. Should I write this? Is this particular statement correct? How many of you say this particular statement is correct? This particular statement doesn't have anything or any problem or any issue in it. We need to first clear that particular thing. Shweta, where are you? Yes or no? No, right. Why? Why? What's the issue in it? Give me the issue. Sambat, right. Give me the issue. I am taking it slow, guys, because this is a very important thing. If you understand things, your life and vectors would be easy. So tell me, what was V storing? What was V storing? V was a vector which was storing a vector only. V was a vector which is storing vector only. So is one a vector? Is one a vector? No, one is not a vector. No, one is not a vector. तुम्हें क्या इंसर्ट करना चाहिए? पहले हमें राइट श्वेता, पहले हमें एक रो इंसर्ट करनी चाहिए और एक वेक्टर इंसर्ट करना चाहिए, isn't it? Right? So what we need to do? We need to v dot push back. We need to insert another row or another vector. Can I say this thing? This syntax is not complete yet, but is this kind of right now logically? Yes. So can I say with this particular thing, I will be inserting a row? And this vector will actually be a row. This vector will have the complete data. So shall we prepare this thing first? Can we prepare? पहले ये prepare कर ले और फिर इस पूरे vector को उठा के डाल दें इसके अंदर. Take an example. Let me give the example I gave to November batch. That what you can do. There is a carton. Okay, there is a big box or carton. Let's assume this as V. Let's assume this as V. Okay. Then you have some boxes, some shuttle boxes. ठीक है. Then you have some shuttlecocks. Then you have some shuttles. Can I say this particular thing is your data or your integers? Yes. Can I say this particular thing is your every row? एक रो है ये, इसके अंदर हम शटल्स पुश करेंगे. So first of all, we'll take the shuttle, we'll insert in this row, and then we'll pick this row and insert it into this box. समझ में आया? Any doubt in this? We'll start filling this. कि एक रो बनाई, उसको पुश कर दिया, फिर दूसरी रो बनाई, उसको पुश कर दिया, फिर तीसरी रो बनाई, उसको पुश कर दिया. Clear? Great. Now let us move further and let us start building this thing. Let us start building this particular array. So, we declared a vector int v. अब मुझे इसमें पुश बैक करने के लिए we need to prepare this row first. Okay, so can we do this? एक वेक्टर ले लेते हैं, रो लेट से, एक सिंगल बंडी वेक्टर ले लेते हैं पहले. Yes. First of all, let us prepare a row, and then what we can do? Row dot pushback 1, row dot pushback 2, row dot pushback 4, and row dot pushback 5. Can I say my first row is ready? मेरा एक शटल बॉक्स रेडी है पूरा. Can I say? What I need to do now? What is left? What I need to do now? What is left? What I need to do now, guys? Yes, I need to take this shuttle box and insert it into a box. So what I need to do? V dot pushback row. Does everybody understand this thing? तो होगा क्या, मेरा V एक मेमोरी एलोकेट करेगा. दिस इज माई V. उससे पहले दिस इज माई रो. उससे पहले दिस इज माई रो. ठीक है. इनसाइड रो आई पुश्ड 1, आई पुश 2, आई पुश 4, आई पुश्ड 5. And then I took this row and insert it inside this V. So ये मेरा यहाँ पे आ जाएगा 1, 2, 4, 5. Yes. Anybody has any doubt in this? Anybody has any doubt in this? Any single person who has any doubt in this? अच्छा, अब ये बताओ, if you understand this thing, tell me the value of this thing. Is this syntactically correct or not? If correct, what is the value of this? Let us see how much you understood. Is it syntactically correct? If yes, what is the value of this thing? Okay. Shraddha, see it carefully. If you are let me just clear it up. This is 1, 2, 4, and 5. This is 1, 2, 4, and 5. There are 4 values in this. Anurag is right. Siddharth is right. Shweta is right. November LITEX, September LITEX is leading by 3-0. Come on. September LITEX is leading. The question is, Sambit, if you understand vectors, what this thing will give me? Kaustav, Christy, Sambit, where are you, yaar? You are letting me down. Right. Right, Sambit, right. राइट क्रिस्टी, बताया करो यार, पुश इट. सो मोस्ट ऑफ यू सेड 4. Most of you said 4. Why 4? First of all, start debugging it or start seeing. V, okay, okay. We have some V, okay. What is V of 0? What is V of 0? V of 0 is this whole thing. The very first row. The very first row. What is V of 0? Is V of 0 an integer? No. V of 0 is not an integer. V of 0 is a vector. So can I use dot size over it? Yes, you can always use a dot size over a vector. So what it will be giving? It will be giving me number of columns, isn't it? It will be giving me number of columns. Achha, tell me what the value of this? What's the value of this currently? Right, Siddharth? Right, Anurag? Shweta, Sambit, Christy, Kaustav. भागने चालू कर दोगे ना तुम? अब मैं नाम लेने लग गया हूं तो. Siddharth, Anurag, and Sambit is right. I'm expecting a reply from Shweta, Christy, and anybody who also want to get into this chat participation. No, Shweta. Think about it, Shweta. Why 5? 5 तो कुछ भी नहीं है ना यहाँ पे, साइज की बात हो रही है. Why 5? What was the think about it? Right, Ayush? Right, Ayush. What was the reason you thought of 5? Then we'll correct that reason. What was the reason you thought of 5, Shweta? 5 एलिमेंट तो नहीं है, 4 ही एलिमेंट है. फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल 1 2 4 5, and I want v dot size. Carefully sees. What is v? What is v? This is v. This is v. Not size of row, Christy. What is v? This whole dabba is v. The big carton is v. What was v of 0? V of 0 was this shuttle box. And what is v? This whole dabba. How many this shuttle box I have inserted currently? अभी तक मैंने कितने शटल बॉक्स इंसर्ट कर दिए? नो श्वेता, अभी तक मैंने कितने शटल बॉक्स इंसर्ट कर दिए? 1 बॉक्स. एक ही तो बॉक्स इंसर्ट किया है ना अभी तक. अभी करंट साइज क्या है? v का करंट साइज क्या है? 1. No, 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 no. These are 4 shuttles. If you are considering it with that analogy, these are shuttles. और एक शटल बॉक्स इंसर्ट किया मैंने अभी. एक वेक्टर इंसाइड किया है एक वेक्टर के अंदर. उस बड़े वाले वेक्टर का साइज क्या है? आई एम आस्किंग अबाउट द बड़े वाले वेक्टर का साइज. Isn't it 1? Isn't it 1? तो can I say it is number of rows? Can I say it is number of rows? Right? Anybody has any doubt in this? No? So if there is a regular vector, regular means there are each row has equal number of columns. Each row have equal number of columns. Then you can find the number of columns by doing this and number of rows by doing this. Understand it logically, then only use it. You have to use it when you are doing the question, but understand it logically first, then only you use it. So I can find out number of columns, I can find out number of rows. अच्छा, now get back to inserting things. अभी तक मैंने क्या किया था? एक रो पिक की थी, उस रो को डेवलप किया था, then I push the row. Now I want the next row. Now I want to do the next row. Shall I copy this particular thing? Shall I copy this particular thing and write it again? Yes. बार बार लिखूं हर रो के लिए same thing? Shall I write this thing for every row? No? Yes? Because करना तो सेम चीज ही है ना. If you carefully see, करना तो सेम चीज है ना. Then again we want to take a row. एक नया डब्बा लेके आएंगे शटल बॉक्स का, उसके अंदर शटल्स पुश करेंगे, फिर इवेंचुअली उस शटल बॉक्स के डब्बे को बी में पुश कर देंगे. फिर अगेन एक और एम्प्टी शटल बॉक्स लेके आएंगे, उसके अंदर शटल्स पुश करेंगे, इवेंचुअली उसको बड़े वाले डब्बे में रख देंगे. So can you see these things are repeating? Can you see this thing is repeating continuously? Now, can you tell me how many times this whole thing will repeat? How many times should I repeat this thing? These 4 to 5 steps. Think of it. What I'm doing in this, I'm picking a shuttle box, I'm inserting shuttles, and I'm putting into the big box. Right, Siddharth? Right. Right. जितनी बार भी हम बॉक्स में डालेंगे, कितनी बार डालेंगे? Right, Sambit? Not Sambit, we can calculate it afterwards. Nahi, Anurag. Anurag, if you are saying columns, I am putting shuttles as columns. Then I am picking this box and putting inside it. These are columns. These are columns. This whole thing is developing a single row. This whole stuff is developing a single row. So how many times I should repeat it? Number of rows. जितनी number of rows चाहिए मेरे को. In पूरी 4-5 line में, in this 4 to 5 lines, what I am doing? I am developing a single row, guys. Right? So how many times I should repeat it? Number of rows. If I want 4 rows, I should repeat it 4 times. If I want 5 rows, I should repeat it 5 times. Yes. So can I say for int I equals to 0, I is less than row size, I plus plus, and just repeat this thing? Can I say this thing? Let us write it in a very better way quickly, because this would be the last thing we are studying. Let me just copy if it allows me to copy it. Doesn't. And eventually what we do? We push this row inside the vector v. ठीक है? इतना clear है सबको? Now tell me, एक और चीज हम very brutally कर रहे हैं, कोई चीज we are repeating one more thing. What we are repeating again and again? We are repeating one more thing. Right, Shweta? Can you see we are repeating this thing again and again? Inserting inside that row. हम पूरी जो रो प्रिपेयर कर रहे हैं उसको भी तो हम रिपीट कर रहे हैं, isn't it? So can I just erase it? And what I want to repeat? I want to repeat this thing. Row dot pushback and my data. How many times I want to repeat it? Yeah, number of columns. So can I say for int j equals to 0, do not use I again. Call size I plus plus, j plus plus. Yes. Do you understand this thing? And let me just declare the vector here also. Vector int and v. So can you see the insertion in a 2D dynamic array inside a 2D vector? We declared my vector. I declared my vector. I run a loop for rows, number of rows, as we did in the case of 2D arrays. हम पहले rows का loop run करते थे. Then I declared a row कि एक row बनाते हैं. उस row को मैंने prepare किया using a loop, columns की data डाला, and then after developing that row, I pushed that row inside the V. I push that row inside the V. Is my voice breaking for everyone? No. Okay. So if I want to find the column size, I can find out the column size using this. If I want to find the rows, I can find the rows with this. Is this thing clear, everyone? No doubt in this? No issue in this? Shall I show you it working on the IDE on editor? Then we can see multiple more things. Yes. अगर किसी को इसमें कुछ समझना है तो tell me. Otherwise, I am going to move from iPad, and then we are going to our final 10 to 15 minutes, and we'll see it on editor. No? Great. Just the last part. Okay, Ayush. Okay. Which last part, Ayush? Can you specify, or shall I unmute you if you want? Which part to be more specific, Ayush? If you are asking about the column part, I'm not repeating. Okay, huh. So Ayush, what we were doing, see, first of all, we were repeating this particular thing. First of all, we were repeating this whole thing for the rows, right? Now, after handling the rows, I saw, okay, I am writing row.pushback again and again. Only my data is changing. Only my data is changing. So, if I want to add 10 shuttlecocks or if I want to add 10 integers inside my row, क्या मैं ये same चीज 10 बार लिखूंगा? Will I write this particular thing 10 times? Of course no. So this is a dry principle again. Do not repeat yourself. So what should I use? Should I use loops? Should I use loops? So what I am going to do? Row.pushback. I write it one time. Row.pushback data. You can take this data from the user. You can write int data here and see in data from user. Okay. So row.pushback. And how many times you want to add the data? एक single row के अंदर, this is a row. I am building a single row. एक single row के अंदर how many times you will enter the data? Isn't it equal to the number of columns? Yes. So I will go from 0 to column size and I will keep on adding the data. After building this row, I will push this into the big V. I will push this into the big V. Yes, Ayush, is this clear now? If it is not clear, I can unmute you and we can see what. Okay. Anybody else has an issue with it? Is 2D vectors clear to you? Let us quickly see how we do it in the case of. Let us see it in working on the editor. संबित, which part? अभी यहाँ लिखते हैं फिर समझाता हूँ, ठीक है संबित? Let us quickly write it here and then I'll let you know how the things are working. So what we need to do, we need to first declare. We need to first declare vector v. Inside this vector, what we need to put? Another vector. Inside this vector, what we need to put? another vector, right? Now what I want to insert values into it. I want to insert values into it. So what I told you, that let us first prepare a row. Let us first prepare a row. Okay, and how do I prepare the row? I take input from the user. Whatever value I want to insert, and then I need to insert that value into my row. Row dot pushback data, right? Then I will do this thing again. And again. I will keep on repeating this thing equal to the number of columns. Okay, equal to the number of columns. So why to write this thing again and again? Let us just put this particular thing inside a loop. So what we need to do for int j equals to 0, and what would be the loop size? एक row तैयार कर रहे हैं. We are building a row. So inside a row there are number of columns. So let's say call size, or let's say columns, and j plus plus. Cool. And now what I will do, I will push inside this v this particular row. Now one row is developed. I want to create multiple rows. So can I not put this particular thing inside a row only? So can I write for int I equals to 0, I is less than rows, I plus plus. I'll run a loop. And I'll just make the row inside it. Yes, is it clear? Sambit, is it clear now? Great. Now let us initialize. We will need to have 3 rows, and let's say we need to have 4 columns, or 3 columns only. Okay. Now tell me, I have created this V. One thing remains. What is the thing which remains? I have created V. What is the thing which still remains? Exactly. How to access? Can you guess how to access? Can you guess, guys, how to access? Right, like array only, like 2D array only. How? Array of ij. Okay, so what we can do, if we want to print for int I equals to I less than rows, I plus plus, I plus plus, and what we will do, C out of B of ij. Shall we try and run it? Now let me give 3 rows and 3 columns now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. This guy's creation of a 2D vector, inserting inside a 2D vector, how we first develop the rows, then we input it at row inside a vector, and then how we actually print it. How do we access any value? Right? Anybody has any issue in it. Any single person who has an issue in it. Clear? Great. Now there is a similar question which we did here inside a 1D array. We did a question with 1D array. There is a given 1D array with integers, and you have to filter out the even numbers. The same question, I have given you an assignment today. The same question is given in that assignment for 2D arrays also, for 2D vectors also. There will be rows and columns, and for every row, for every data, you just need to remove the odd ones. or you just need to remove the even ones. Just check it what it is, and you have to give the output. Can you do that now? Can you do that now yourself? A similar question. After doing the question which I gave you before is also given. So try first of all do these two questions. You will be able to do many things. You will be able to learn things. कि हाँ अच्छा आप समझ में आ गया मेरे को अच्छे से how things are happening. Okay. Now before signing off, before closing the class, let me just tell you a few more things. I told you that yes, we can give the size also. We are not giving the size, but we can give the size also. How can we do this? First of all, let us consider for 1D array. You have seen this, right? I have written this before. Array of 3 equals to 0. It will initialize the whole array with 0, right? It will initialize the whole array with 0. If you have seen it, it will initialize the whole array with 0. Yes or no, guys? Give me some affirmations. Yes. So, does there exist? I'll give the notes and assignment. Do not worry. Assignment will be on your dashboard only, and these notes I will put on dashboard only after the class. Don't worry. I'll give the REPL link, and I will give the notes. You can download the notes from the dashboard only. Okay. So now, see, we can initialize and we can also declare the size at the time of vector only. I know some bit. I have taught you, so you should know this thing. So now, can I do the same thing inside a vector? Yes, okay. Take a vector, and let us take a vector at x1. Okay, this is a vector. Until now, there was no size, there was no data. Okay, now I am telling you, if you want to give a specific size, कि इतनी memory location starting में ही allocate कर दो. Just allocate this much memory allocation in the starting. इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि मेरा fixed size का बन जाएगा. No. In the very starting, it will declare at least this much allocations. उसके बाद तुम pushback करना चाहो तो उसके बाद pushback करो. Okay. So how you can do? Just put these two brackets. Just to put these two brackets and give the size. Just put these two brackets and give the size. Okay. So let me just demonstrate one more thing over here. Let us see one more thing. Let us see before doing this, what would happen if I try to do this? What would happen if I try to do this? What do you think what would happen? Quickly tell me. 10 more minutes, guys, then I'll leave you. But until then, be interactive. Final 10 minutes, then I'll leave you. Until then, please be more interactive. What do you think what would happen now? Does not exist, right? Error. Okay. Anybody who specifically know which error will come? If there will be an error or what it will print? I told you in today's class only. I told you this thing in today's class only. Right, Ayush, right. So let us quickly run it and see. What it is saying. Okay. Can you see? It is saying segmentation fault. It is saying segmentation fault. Because we haven't, this thing was currently just, a dot or just empty thing. There was nothing. And still we are trying to access which doesn't exist. We are trying to access something which doesn't exist. Right? It's kind of like your imaginary soulmates. So your soulmate doesn't exist and you are still imagining it. So it is kind of like that. So you are accessing something which doesn't exist. So now what we can do here, we can put these two brackets and we can give a size x of 4. Tell me what would happen now. Tell me what could happen now. What do you think? Will segmentation fault still persist or will there something be new? Some value or something else, some error only? What do you think? Think about it. interact. Garbage value, no error. I think it will assign 0 by default. Let us see. Let us quickly run it. Oh, great. It printed 0. So Aviroop is right. But it is quite possible that in some other code editor it behaves something different. So we can assume it to be a, garbage value kind of. But usually vectors, if not given a value, usually vectors insert 0 into it as an integer. Okay. So what happened? We formed a x1 vector with 4 memory location. We formed an x1 vector with 4 memory location, and then we try to access the 0th memory location. What will happen if I try to do this? What will happen if I try to do this? Segmentation error. Right, exactly right. Again, segmentation error. Now you can also do one thing. You can give a comma. And you can give an integer value. Now what will happen? The whole array will be, filled with this value. It printed 2. If you try to print it, it will print. I hope so. It should print 2. So whole array is filled with this value. So this is the size and this is the default value we are inserting. This is the size, this is the default value we are inserting inside a vector. Okay. Now let us consider 2D vectors. Tell me, I want 5 rows. So what should I do? I want 5 rows. What should I do? I want 5 rows. One way of doing is by writing a loop and inserting 5 rows again and again. One way of doing is for int I equals to 0, I less than 5, I plus plus, and v dot pushback a vector, let's say temp, and let us declare temp outside. So I needed 5 rows. So what I did, I declared a row and inserted that empty vector 5 times. Right? One way of doing this stuff is like this. Another way is, this is a vector only, na? This is a vector only. I can define the size of vector. So size of v is what? Number of rows. So can I not do this thing? 5. Can I not do this thing? 5. Yes. Now if I try to do this thing, let's say v of 0 dot size. Let's say v of 0 dot size. Okay, now what? Let's see what will it print. It printed 0 because there are no columns. Right? Now what I want to do, I want to insert 6 columns or let's say 4 columns. What should I do? मैं चाहता हूं कि स्टार्टिंग में ही, in the very starting only, I have 4 columns, 5 rows and 4 columns. एक ऐसा structure build होके आ जाए at the time of declaration only. What should I do? Any guess? See, let me give you a hint. What we did, we take a vector v and inside it we want 5 locations. So we want 5 rows. Right? No, Siddharth, you are trying to think it right, but not in the way. You cannot give it here. This particular thing tell you about the data type or tell you about the structure, how it is going to be. कि वो कैसे data store करेगा, right? So what you can do, tell me this thing. What we are doing here? कि there was a x1 vector of 4 size, and every memory location has this default value 2. Every memory location has this default value 2 integer. So inside this every memory location, what should it contain? Should it contain an integer? No, it should contain a vector. So what I can write, that every memory location should contain an integer. Oh, sorry, a vector. Every memory location should contain a vector. Okay, is it clear? Now it is giving me red dots. Why is it giving me red dots? Because when we were declaring vector, we were writing this whole thing. We were writing a name also, right? So I do not want to write a name here. What we can do, we can give this brackets here. We can give these brackets here. So now understand what it's saying. Take a vector v of size 5. Take a vector v of size 5. There are 5 memory locations. And inside a memory location, push a vector. And inside each memory location, push an empty vector. ये समझ में आया? Is this clear with everyone? What we were doing here, take a vector x1 with 4 size, and at every memory location, insert 2. Now I am saying take a vector v, it will have 5 rows. It will have 5 rows and it will be initialized with a vector. Every row will be initialized with an empty row. एक खाली शटल बॉक्स मैंने डाल दिया हर उसके अंदर, खाली खाली शटल बॉक्सेस डाल दिए, right? Now what I want to do, I want to fix the size of columns also. Not fix, I want to give the initial size of columns also. तो ये एक वेक्टर है ना, this is a vector, this is a vector. How do we give the size of a vector, initial size? I can write it here. What I am saying, there will be v rows and this much number of columns. Let me just declare rows and columns. Yes, is it fine now? Do you understand why we are doing this stuff and how we are using this stuff? Now it is 6 rows and 5 columns. Now you try to do this thing now. V of, let's say, 4th row and let's say 3rd column. It will work. It will definitely work. It might print some garbage value or 0 because you haven't inserted things, but it will work. But अगर आप ये नहीं करते ना, अगर आप ये चीज नहीं करते, तो initially it was just empty. Now you cannot do this thing. It will give you segmentation fault. जब तक डेटा नहीं डालोगे, it will give you segmentation fault. Is it right? So if you know in the starting only how many rows are there, how many columns are there, you can just remove this headache and just do it here only. Okay. Now what you can do is, now you do not need to care about this thing. Now you do not need to care about taking this row, pushing this. Now what you can do, just like arrays, you already have memory locations. You already have memory locations. Now what you can do, you can just do this thing. P of ij is equals to 10, or let's say जो भी data आ रहा है हमारा. Yes. Why? Because now you have this location. Previously you did not have this location, तो हमें build करना पड़ेगा. एक पूरा बड़ा डब्बा रखा है, कार्टन रखा है, मैं एक लोकेशन पे जाके शटलकॉक डालना चाहता हूँ. आई पिक अ शटलकॉक एंड वेंट एंड ट्राई टू पुश इट. लेकिन वहां पे खाली डब्बा ही नहीं पड़ा है, तो हाउ कुड आई एंटर? So that is why we actually first took a empty box and put shuttle boxes. But now what we did, हमने स्ट्रक्चर तैयार करके रख लिया. हमने बड़ा बॉक्स लिया, उसके अंदर 6 खाली शटल बॉक्सेस डाल दिए. ठीक है, और उनको ये भी बता दिया कि हर शटल बॉक्स के अंदर 5 शटल्स आएंगी. अब मैंने एक शटल ली और मैं एक आई कोमा जे पोजीशन पे गया और मैंने वहां जाके उस शटल को डाल दिया. बिकॉज अब वो बॉक्स एग्जिस्ट करता है. बिकॉज नाउ डेट बॉक्स एग्जिस्ट. अब मैं वो चीज कर सकता हूँ. प्रीवियसली आई कुड नॉट डू दिस थिंग क्योंकि वो रो ही एग्जिस्ट नहीं करती थी. अभी मैं बना रहा था उस रो को. आई वॉज बिल्डिंग दैट रो. इज दिस थिंग क्लियर गाइस? Anybody has any doubt in this today's session can let me know. Is fear of vectors, or who do not know vectors previously, do they know vectors now? Do they know vectors a little bit or a bit enough now? Was this remedial session benefit? मैं क्या बोल रहा? Was this remedial session beneficial to you? 2 घंटे वेस्ट तो नहीं हुए किसी के? Great. So if anybody has any doubt, can stay. Otherwise, you can leave. And please, जो आज की assignment है ना, it is optional, but try to do that assignment यार. हाँ, I'll answer this Siddharth. Try to do that assignment यार, okay? Everyone, please. उससे ना you'll be able to clear कि वो क्या vectors क्या होते हैं और what are everything else. You'll be able to use vectors properly. So Siddharth is asking, what is the use of normal 1D 2D arrays then sir? तो सिद्धार्थ जब सी आई थी ना तो वी हैड सम एरेज ओके. जब सी आई थी तो हमारे पास एरेज थे और जब हमें ऑलरेडी साइजेस का पता है ना व्हेन वी ऑलरेडी नो द साइज डोंट यूज वेक्टर्स यार. इट इंक्रीज है लॉट ऑफ एफर्ट वेक्टर एंड दिस एंड दैट. राइटिंग एरेज इज सो सिंपल इजंट इट. राइटिंग पुश बैक एंड ऑल दैट स्टफ when you already know the size, when you do not know want any dynamic nature, then you can use array. Is your doubt clear, Siddharth? Anurag, I'm not sure if there is going to be a pointers remedial class. So you can have one option, yeah. Ki there is one remedial class remaining, okay? There is one remedial class remaining, and we were planning to have it on time complexity. But if you want it in pointers, so we can have it on pointers. Let me have a discussion with Satya Sai and then we can decide कि हम pointers पे करें या time complexity पे करें. ठीक है अनुराग? For November LITEX, since time complexity is not yet covered, तो उनको तो कोई issue नहीं है. तो but क्योंकि तुम्हें time complexity cover हो चुका है September LITEX के लिए. So for you guys, if you want time complexity, समय structure तो हमने discuss ही नहीं किया ना अभी. Do not worry. हाँ, सत्य साई said time complexity, but somebody said कि सर pointers का possible है क्या? We are only left with one remedial session. Or either we can have a remedial session on Tuesday, but then it will become hectic. It might become hectic for you guys. So let me have a discussion with Satya Sai and then we'll decide. यार बहुत सारे remedial session बाकी हैं फिर ऐसे तो we cannot just cover everything ना. That's the problem Siddharth. Your classes are going to start again from 4th data structures classes, right Siddharth? Siddharth, so are you a new student or you were a student before and you started now learning? What's the thing with you? Sambit, I am not sure we are going to cover a remedial. We are going to have a remedial class for string. Go and watch my lecture, जो previous recorded lecture. और कोई issue हो तो ping me यार. ठीक है संबित? अच्छा सिद्धार्थ, ओके. फिर भी issue है संबित, वो देख लिया तो पसंद नहीं आई वो वाली क्लासेस. कोई नहीं संबित, ping me. I'll help you in the assignment. Don't worry. Good night Anurag. Good night. Samit, ping me on Skillset. I'll help you with the assignments. And Siddharth, there is one thing for you कि you are in September LITEX or November LITEX by the way? In which batch is assigned to you, Siddharth? September. So one possible thing is that you can watch the recorded lectures, okay, and then you can continue with the September LITEX from 4th. The other thing is you can watch my recorded lectures of November LITEX and then you can start from with November LITEX. You can try to have shifted your batch. Why I'm suggesting this because we are at least 4 to 5 lectures behind September LITEX, right? So you can opt for anything. So it's your choice. But I'm not sure if more remedial classes are going to come, because from the very next week we are going to again start with DSA. Good night, Sampath. Okay, Siddharth. Otherwise, ping your case. Otherwise, let us have a discussion with either Satya Sai or with me after the class. ठीक है? Have a discussion with Satya Sai, या फिर मेरे को पिंग कर लेना स्केलर चैट पे, फिर we can decide what to do with you. Great. Anybody has anything else to discuss? Otherwise, I can let you go. No? चलो फिर. Bye bye.